We talked last week about the wave of nerfs and buffs that Blizzard aimed at putting out for the corruption system, and they went live this week. With that, in the initial weeks of 8.3, we had a chance to play with the corruption system quite a bit, and I think at this point it's fair to take a step back and analyze it with a critical eye. As far as balancing it is concerned, I retain my initial point of view. Balance the effects against each other, not against the game itself. Is the end of the expansion. We had a rough ride. Ny'alotha is a simple raid instead of a whole expansion like most of us thought and hoped it would be. A very rich history and potential content just boiled down to 12 bosses and some trash, 2 cutscenes and very little dialogue. I stand my ground here and say that I wish for more with Ny'alotha, but that's another topic. With that being said, I think it's fair to put some pizzazz in the game right now, and the only real way to do it is with the corruption system by making it stupid, but balanced. Make us have a choice between the effects and don't nerf them to the point where we just take the highest eye level. Why am I saying this? Well, mainly because now that the Infinite Stars and Echoing Void have been nerfed to the ground, Solar Devastation is still cranking serious numbers, after it has been nerfed as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see it nerfed again, although I seriously hope not, because it would turn into what we just mentioned. We are corrupted by ny'alotha. Let us feel like demi-old gods for a patch after all the shit we have been through. That's what I'm saying. It's not very compelling from a character progression point of view to have random things outside the control of you dictate the damage output and subsequently your performance. Unless it's the last patch and there is no more room for character growth. And hey, it is, right? No more 8.3.5 and so on and so on. As a concept, I like the corruption system. It's interesting, it's engaging, and it makes me care when it drops or it doesn't, as opposed to titanforging. You can argue titanforging was less crazy, more balanced, but it was a fucking boring system, and every time I hear people say it was better, I want to drink battery acid. Enjoy the game, enjoy the stupid. BFA has been in the shitter ever since they didn't reverse the Azrai system. How long ago was that? Oh, that's right, the beta of the expansion. There is one argument I heard being made, I think by Zyronic from Limit, and I actually agree. The obtaining method is shitty and it's kind of a trademark of Blizzard right now. If you think about it, if the obtaining method of corruption, titanforging, etc. would have been less RNG-ish and something you can actively and reliably work towards, then the system would have been an entire different can of beans. There were some interesting arguments and suggestions made in the Titanforge podcast with the World First Raiders, which I recommend you guys check after our video, of course. After, please. We love you. I currently have all the major effects on my main, and my main alts have at least one of those. I was very lucky this patch, but I'm playing with some friends who aren't as lucky, and their misfortune is fairly obvious on the damage meter and in their salty, teary-filled voices. That sucks. There is no great comfort into getting these effects after they have been gutted into the ground like I imagine they will be, since, well, think of anything that was standing out too much in the past and how Blizzard nailed it eventually. How does the saying go? The nail that stands out gets laid? Something like that. Looking back at corruption, titanforging, Azerite, and every major system added this expansion, I have come to a very predictable and obvious conclusion. The systems are made to emulate a gambling fashion. The release of endorphins when you get a big piece of loot, titanforged to the max, corrupted, just the right way, will make you feel so good about the game that it creates a little sense of addiction, as does gambling. It's nothing you can control outside the amount of hours you put into the game to eventually play the numbers and get your own reward. It's not compelling. It doesn't promote skillful play, it doesn't promote social play like an MMO would, and you can literally get a World Quest 420 eye-level blue piece of loot with tier 3 Solar Devastation. The amount of RNG baked into obtaining each piece is staggering and creates this "oh shit, I got it" moment that Ian kept talking about in previous interviews, where he said he wants players to have that amazing moment where your hard work is rewarded. We do, but not like this, not being addicted to a system that forces us to play it even though we don't like it, making us feel bad for not farming that extra item rewarding world quest that can corrupt. I, a proud member of the pleb folk that plays the game at an average level, have scoffed at mythic raiders complaining about how many 16-hour farm days of non-stop islands they have to do to stay at the top. Just don't do it, it's simple. No, it's silly. The Mythic Raider situation is an extreme example of the core problem that WoW has been suffering for a few years now. The game design is focused way too much in keeping players subscribed than keeping them entertained, happy, eager to play more. What keeps me wanting to play WoW after all these years is trying to push a higher key, trying to win one more arena, trying to kill a raid boss quicker than I could before. And all of these in spite of me having to farm islands, farm world quests, farm professions, farm battlegrounds, farm dailies, just to be able to do what I want to do. And I'm a lucky example because I like both PvE and PvP. However fucked up the Azerite system, essences, and corruption systems are, they don't affect me too much because I play everything. But that's not normal. I shouldn't have to do battlegrounds for rewards to be used in dungeons. I shouldn't have to raid to get the gear I need to win in arenas against Guardian Druids. Fuck you, Guardian Druids. We all know this and have known this for quite some time now, and we keep talking and talking and talking about this every goddamn video, and nothing is ever done. I heard someone say before that WoW survives despite the devs trying very hard to kill it. WoW is an amazing game. It always has been, because it was created by gamers, by passionate people. It has a strong will to survive, and I still think BFA is a good expansion. Not a great one, not the best, not the top 3 or 4, but far from the current perception is. And the constant stubbornness of the devs to listen to us is painful. Hey, don't listen to players, but play the game yourself. Try to fit into your busy schedule a mythic raiding schedule, try to push a gladiator rank, try to get your plus 15s achievement, and try to do all of these without being carried, and tell me then, after all of that, that you are satisfied with the game and you know better than us what the game needs to be fun. It turned into a bit of a rant. I love WoW, it's been a part of me for 15 years and more if we just count the Warcraft universe. And the major reason is the passion, love, and energy that it emanates, since that's how it was built. It saddens me that it's seemingly killed to meet a corporate profit quota despite what gamers are actually craving. Give us a game that doesn't let us get off of our seats, and I'll guarantee you your sub numbers will double, maybe even triple. Blizzard isn't doing that because it's a risk, and risks need to be managed in a business. But a business who isn't taking risks won't be at the top. Or maybe the devs have just lost confidence they can give us a game that will glue us to the PC and make us forget we need to do islands 16 hours a day.
Feeding off of all of that, I talked about this in a previous On Cooldown episode, but I think it's time to really develop this and maybe expand a bit on the subject on what BFA should have been, or what was the necessary fix prior to the launch of BFA. And I know it may sound a little bit empiric, or and this is not coming from somebody who knows how game development works or whatever, but this is just my dreamy do on how BFA should have worked and how BFA could have been a super awesome expansion, at least from a gearing progression, character progression type of system. So what should have happened for the get-go? The gear, the Azerite system should have never been, okay? Forget about all that, right? The whole concept of the Azerite, the Heart of Azeroth, that could be strictly for a questline and transmogable perspective if you wanted it to be, but no, Azerite traits should have never been there. Instead, Azerite traits, as they were portrayed later in 8.2 and now in 8.3, I mean the important ones, the ones that most people play, they should have been talents, okay? Granted, passive talents, but sort of gameplay defining or build defining traits, right? Those should have been baked into the talents. And I believe that would have been really fun for them to have a set of old traits to be talents at level 115 and a set of another 3 of the Azerite traits at level 120. You could see it on the screen right now. It's a little bit of a mock-up, but you get the idea. That would have been the first place. The compelling argument for you to go out there and get new gear should have been corruption from the start. And I agree with Flame, the methods of obtaining that shit and the way it drops and how it performs is not ideal, I get it. Although I do strongly think that if that was the inception from the get-go, from the moment they talked about Battle for Azeroth, they would have had the time to lay it out and chisel it in to make it work, okay? So take that in mind when I'm talking about this, right? So the gear should have been with the corrupted affixes from the get-go. Story-wise, it wouldn't made a lot of sense because nobody knew back then that it was ny'alotha behind all this, but when we think about it, BFA didn't really portray it exactly how it used to. I mean, I was really really tired about, oh man, you guys don't even know what's happening, right? Sylvanas has her stuff, then the Alliance has their stuff, and the Horde has their stuff, but in the background there's something really big you guys will finally find out. Fuck that shit. I hate that shit. How about just bringing back the old big-ass villain we know right from the start, and we good? It's always nice to have an impending doom, you know, hanging over your head. When you're saying that the corrupted gear wouldn't make any sense story-wise, fuck that. From the day one they talked about BFA, ny'alotha should have been on the goddamn cover, okay? So have the corrupted items from the beginning of BFA, from patch 8.0, and have the Azerite traits, new talents for level 115 and level 120, okay? Granted, if you would have went that way, you had way more options for bad effects and good effects for all of the classes. I'm not saying spec-wise, but I'm pretty sure a lot of these corrupted affixes would have been made. They had the time to make them at least class-wide. I think they would have had it if the focus was on that. And think about it, with this, you would still have an engaging way and a reward-filling type of leveling experience, because you get something new at level 115, which is awesome, and you get another new thing at level 120, which was something that really sucked in BFA. Remember that. We got no new talents, we got nothing new, right? It was pretty bad. Now, essences, where do these fall in? Well, I'm glad you asked right there. That could have been gear sets. Bonuses on sets, because if you look at them closely, they kind of provide that. The major could be the tier 4 and the minor could be the tier 2. So when you get 2 pieces, you get the minor, and you get 4 pieces, you get the major. It's that easy. And why am I saying gear sets right now? Well, because fucking BFA didn't have class sets, okay? They had the generic fucking gear for every class, and it would have worked with the essences as well. And that would also imply a much easier way for players to obtain them on multiple accounts, multiple characters. Because we all know how unfriendly BFA is from this perspective, right? It's basic stuff, I know. It's not like the super big-ass brain a WoW developer would have to get this implemented. Although I do strongly believe that what I'm saying here is not something they haven't done before. It's just an alteration of a system that could have been baked in much more easily with the traditional way of running World of Warcraft, right? I'm not saying anything new here. Just look at them, right? Even if you look at the Azerite pieces right now, if you would extrapolate those from them being part of this neck you're wearing and shit like that, they're also tier sets, man. Think about it. The majority of tier sets in Legion and in WoD, in Cat and Mop and so on, they were passives or modified a little bit your abilities, you know, increase the duration of Avenging Wrath, right? Your Holy Power Spenders will deal an extra amount of damage to 5-4+ more targets, stuff like that. They usually were from tier sets, but I say, hey, okay, let's not make them tier sets, let's make them talents. 3 choices for level 115 and another 3 choices for 120, because think about it, right now you only work with 6 choices for every class, more or less, but I think that's the gist of it. Right now there are best in slot traits that all classes work with depending on the spec. That being said, let's just recap a bit what BFA should have been, right? Corrupted gear from the get-go. That was like the big thing when gearing up in BFA. ny'alotha was on the front cover of Battle for Azeroth, okay? New talent, the Azerite traits would have been new talents for level 115 and level 120, and the essence system would have been set bonuses for all of this, not class-specific gear, because there's not class-specific gear, the strength gear, the leather gear, or whatever, or not even categorizing it like that. Just having been part of something of a raid where you would have it attached to your gear like a set bonus, and everybody would have access to that shit. Imagine a brand new player coming in right now in the game, and you're with your main, with your level 80 neck and your cloak being upgraded and having corruption gear and Azerite traits. It's really unfriendly for new players, and that baffles me, because for the longest time WoW strived to get more players in, new players in. I mean, if you're not doing that anymore, just cater to the fucking existing ones already, man. You have a core audience, you don't want new audience in. Listen to your players. hopefully this was more or less a bit of a constructive criticism. Okay, not really enjoying any type of rant, but this is an idea that I think would have worked for BFA. And I'm really curious, do you think this would work, or would you have any other ideas? Share it out in the comments, man. We read all of those. We don't have always the time to answer to all of them, but we read all of them. Trust us. Alright, so this was not your usual on cooldown episode, because sometimes we really have to talk to you about certain things that we feel, ideas that we have.
Burning topics.
Yeah, especially with the, you know, the current state of the game, which we enjoy on one hand, but really kind of...
It's kind of hard to ignore all the little annoying little bits.
Yes, and you know, the annoying little bits are not too few. There are quite a lot of them, and I've said so, man. I'm really concerned for Shadowlands, because as much as I like the, you know, the covenant system and shit, as more I think about it, it's like, yep, man, it's a new system again. And it's really concerning.
I guess it depends on how they play out the entire expansion, because I mean, each expansion has to have something new, and if that's the new thing, that's fine. But if that plus 3 other things,
I mean, it's no problem that it's something new. It's just something that is new in direct correlation with the class you're gonna play. That's my fear, because this is what happened with the traits. This is what happened with the essences, and the corruption is more or less not exactly with the class, because that was general. But you get my drift. It's something they keep on doing, and I don't understand why. I mean, don't get me wrong, sites like raid bots make a good living off of this shit, right? And it's fine. I mean, we use
got my money raid bots for a few months now.
We use that shit, and it's really helpful. I'm just saying that shouldn't be the norm, man. You shouldn't go to third-party websites to understand like how your class works with gear.
They've kind of cornered themselves with the secondary stats, because they wanted to keep them balanced, and they actually did a really good job at keeping them balanced so well that you don't really know which one is better. That's because they are balanced. Not if one of them was clearly better, you just go for that one all the time, and you wouldn't have to worry about that as well. What really concerns me though is that at BlizzCon, and prior to BlizzCon, they said that they're gonna use everything from 8.3 to study and learn and implement into Shadowlands. And at the start of the beta for 8.3, we were like really hopeful for that. It was really cool. With all of the things, sounded really awesome on paper, and they were listening. They changed this 8.3 PTR was probably the most changed PTR ever.
Yeah, they changed a lot.
And the fact that it didn't turn out that way, because it didn't feel like they listened, and they keep changing weird shit again and again, and it feels like, okay, well, you say that, and you say that you're gonna listen, and you give us hope for Shadowlands, but I don't know, man.
I know. They did listen, and it showed. The thing is, they didn't have the manpower to implement all of the feedback, because a lot of the shit was changed during the PTR. A lot of it wasn't, because they don't have the manpower allocated anymore for BFA, and it's from a business perspective, is the wise decision. You know, okay, just do BFA, whatever BFA is. You're not gonna change the stigma of it, not now, and make it better for Shadowlands. That's
I am holding my hopes up for that. In the meantime, I will have fun with my Twilight Devastation, looking how Marcelian cries because he isn't getting his corruption system. And we also thank you very much for your support, dear patrons. Thank you for believing in our content and sticking with us. We're gonna have more cool shit ready for you. And you know, we also stream 5 days a week on twitch.tv/MarcelianOnline, so go check that out tomorrow. Saturday is gonna be a long day stream, and usually we kind of run raids now on Saturdays.
Yeah.
And if you want to join, check our Discord. We'll post all the updates there. And with that being said, man, enjoy your weekend. WoW is still fun, guys.
For the record, I have 3 Twilight Devastations on my Demon Hunter. Rank 3, Rank 2, and Rank 1. Thank you. Bye.